Hey, Growing Your Firm family. I'm really excited about today's interview. We brought on Dan Martell, three-time successful exited entrepreneur in the software space. And a lot of today's interview focused on his journey of what I would call creating leverage in his personal and professional life. So in this interview, Dan will talk a little bit about his current scale. He's running two 8-figure revenue companies, has a young family, he's running Ironmans, he's doing it all. And it really rests on this concept of buying back your time. And so this interview is jam-packed with frameworks and phrases that can really resonate and really transform your firm. I look forward to showing you this interview. As always, if you have questions, comments, send them my way, david@jetpackworkflow.com, and enjoy today's interview. Dan, welcome back to the show.
David, I appreciate it, man. I'm pumped. And I want to set an intention for everybody listening. You don't know me. David is a very good friend. I know you've had incredible guests, so it's a tall order. I want to set the intention that this is the best podcast interview you've ever done for your audience.
I love it. I'm on the same page with you, Dan. I think we have a lot of content we can get through. You've had a really prolific career. We're going to dig into that book that's behind you, Buy Back Your Time, here in a little bit. For folks that don't know you, we'll set a little bit of context before we really dig into that book and that framework. I think it's going to be incredibly applicable to everybody listening. But if you haven't stumbled across Dan, what has been your journey to write this book?
Yeah, everything in the book. I actually posted. Do you see that guy? Oh, geez, I can't do this backwards. See that little statue right there? So there's a statue on my shelf, and what it is, a bronze statue of a man, a overweight, like obese person, but inside a man who's been chiseling away. That's what chiseling away at the person that symbolizes inside of this larger person is this Greek god body. And I found this, the artist, I literally commissioned it from this artist in Mexico to make this for me, because that symbolizes my journey, right? It symbolizes the hole I found myself as a teenager, like literally one of the worst places most people could ever imagine. I ended up in prison twice. I got out, got sober. As a young adult, I discovered coding. And there was this like journey of like friction and pain, right? To the point where failed my first two companies at 18. Then I did another one at 21. It wasn't until I was 24, which is still relatively young, but I tried like earnestly for 7 years, dude. Like, people don't understand when I say I didn't side hustle. I 100% was living off nothing, trying to make these businesses, and just like failure after failure. What happened was I started this company called Sphere, which was a kind of like a services business software company. So we had these products we built, we'd use them to get into big companies, but the 80% of our revenue was services based, not software. So it's like this Trojan horse. So for a lot of people listening, I built a multi-million-dollar consulting company. So when we want to talk about like utilization forecasts and hiring and training and like cash flow and all that stuff, like on lock, it'd been there, done that. But what happened in building this company, Spheric Technology is what it was called. I was engaged to a woman and I was a workaholic. And like, I would tell myself, like, I'm doing this for our future. And like, I would go to birthday parties of my best friends and show up with my laptop and sit in the living room while there's a full-blown party going on around me and work on contracts and emails. And in my head would tell myself, I'm the best friend ever, because I'm so busy that I should be at the office, and I'm here celebrating my friend's birthday. Like, yay me. Obviously, in hindsight, my friends literally said, you were the worst, Dan. I don't even understand how you thought that was a good idea. And I was like, okay, maybe I was a little blinded. But what happened is I was just, man, I just didn't want to fail again. And I was just obsessed, and I hired a business coach, and I was just like all in. I literally became obsessed with success and working. And every Sunday I had like a routine, dude. There was no days off. Saturday, Sunday, Sundays, my rule was I worked till 11, and then me and my fiance would go do something. And that day there was actually a birthday party going on. This was like May 2008. And I look up at my clock, it's 1:30. So I'm like, pass. I don't know if you've ever done that where you're like, oh no. So I like rush back to our house. We just bought this house, and I pull in the driveway and I run in the house. And as soon as I open the door, I see her in the kitchen, just in tears. And she can't even speak. Like, she's beside herself, and she just looks at me from across the room and just takes the ring off, drops it on the counter, and says, I can't do this. And like, she just walked past me, ended up going to her parents' house. And that was the last time we were together.
Wow.
7 weeks before the wedding.
I feel like the mentality of going all in is really required in the early days. I love the concept of fully committing, and certainly if you can swing it, and I think there's a lot of folks that don't feel in that position, but they probably could put themselves in that position. And I feel like it's often required, and it is to the detriment of people around us. But it's like you are so focused on not repeating those failures that you're like, I'm talking for myself now, I may not be the smartest person in the room, but I'll continue to work because that will give me the output needed to make this successful. And I think there's a real challenge in, you had success with Spheric, but then how do you turn the corner where you say, I'm actually going to shed that skin because it's no longer serving me? And that's a huge mental shift of like, how do you still think of yourself as being all in without being 24/7 grinding on the business?
That is the question. And that was the journey. What's nuts, David, is 3 months after that moment, we get acquired and I become a multimillionaire. Everything I had said I was doing for her happened on like in my bank account. And then I was depressed, lonely. I was having anxiety attacks. And there was this period where I literally thought, maybe I'm not supposed to be in a relationship. Maybe my future is one of creation and support of my community and show up for my family, but I couldn't see a way to do both. Like you were asking, like, how do you do this? Because it's what's required, but then also not be horrible in this other area. And I was worried. I was literally just like resolving to, maybe that's just not my destiny. And what happened is I ended up moving to Silicon Valley, San Francisco, right downtown, Mission District.
So
right
you're
by
what,
Dolores
late
Park.
20s? Late 20s?
Yeah,
at
this
point?
is 28. I was 28.
Okay.
This was September 1st, 2008. I moved there. I tried to retire for 4 months, built this mega mansion, bought a boat, partied, and then realized like, yeah, no, I'm going to wake up in 10 years and be that fat old man with young people around him going, you're horrible. So I just, out of desperation, honestly, I moved and I just found a completely different way of executing. I wouldn't say lifestyle. What I learned there, and it's so many people influence this, but like folks like Naval Ravikant, if you don't follow his stuff, Naval's a genius. And he was an early mentor. He didn't even know. He would just talk and I would just take notes. And he shared with me something really profound. He goes, there's only like time is a fixed resource. And if you want to increase your output, there's only 4 ways to get lever, right? Or get leverage in your life. And my buddy Alex calls them the 4 C's, right? Hormozy is his name. Alex is brilliant. The 4 C's that Naval taught me back then in 2008, 2009 is content. This podcast, great example. 10 million people listen to this. There's no extra cost to you or I, or really delivery. Second one is code, our favorite place, right? Software. If you think of like custom scripts, integrations, information moving automatically, that's huge leverage. Workflow, automation, like your business, huge leverage, right? Third C is capital, which we also know very well, right? We use capital to get leverage and et cetera. And then the fourth one is collaboration. It's people, it's labor. It's why we build teams. And essentially what he said to me in the mission I went on was, how do you master all 4? Because to the degree that you can master all 4, there's unlimited output. So if you want to have a life of creation and crazy audacious goals and building, and also have the time to show up as a father, partner, brother, sister, community member, etc., that's the journey. And that's where the buyback principle came from. This simple yet elegant first principle about how I look at my time that allowed me to go on to build and exit multiple software companies, invest in 50 plus software companies, 4 of them $1 billion companies. Last year, I did 3 Ironmans. I have dinner with my kids every night. I run 2 8-figure companies, SaaS Academy and High Speed Ventures. And if anything, year over year, I'm creating more and I'm living a higher quality life. And it sounds almost like snake oil sales. I get it. When people are like, oh, that's the dream. I get it, but I'll prove it to you. If you follow this principle, the principle is buyback principle states, you don't hire people to grow your business. You hire people to buy back time out of your calendar. I call it a calendar over capacity problem. My buddy, I literally just got off a call with one of my good friends, Marcel. And he was like, things are going great. Just sold out. He has a service company. Sold out. Don't have any. And I go, bad word. Super bad word. He's like, I know. And I go, look, dude, like you have potential and now you can't execute it. And he knows my stuff really well, right? He got early access to my book. And it was funny because he goes, I think the next hire is a salesperson because I'm doing this and this. And I just ask him, I go, how many sales calls are you doing a week? He goes, 4. Not enough. And I go back to the replacement ladder. Okay. It's in the book, but I'll walk you through real quick. There's levels of sequencing the hiring, right? If you ask me to put, Dan, what is the most efficient? Because really this is what it is. It's level 1 is executive assistant. Level 2 is delivery or fulfillment. Level 3 is marketing. Level 4 is sales. And level 5 is leadership. He was going to go to level 4, but I said, okay, you have a marketing problem because you're not even doing 10 to 15 calls a week until you get to 10 to 15 calls a week. And then he's like, don't have time to do that. Aha, you're at level 2. I don't have time to do that. You have an executive assistant. She's actually, yeah, she takes care of it all. Perfect. We talked about inbox and calendar. Yeah, on check. So I was like, so you literally have a level 2 problem to solve, then a level 3 marketing, then sales. He was about to make the same mistake everybody makes. You know what happens, David? You hire a salesperson when you only have 4 sales calls a week. You know it. You've probably done it. We all done it.
Classic mistake.
Guy doesn't have enough pipeline. You hire him, train him. He's not winning. He leaves in 3 or 4 months. You're right back. And guess who's taking the calls now? You are again. And that's why I wrote this book, is because I get the call from, and this is not a software. This is literally, my friends are HVAC owners, plumbing companies, service business agency owners, creatives. A lot of my friends are content creators. They're the ones that I actually love to support, because my mission is I want to help people build a business they don't grow to hate. I want to help people build an empire, except my empire definition is a life of unlimited creation you never have to retire from. I want to say it again because people are like, what? Empire equals a life of unlimited creation you never have to retire from. And everybody can do it. And it's in everybody because they're already making the same decisions. They're just doing them in the wrong way. Sequencing equals success. So how does it work?
That was going to be my follow-up. Is sequencing the most common mistake as people are trying to think about leveraging, where they throttle up too high? Is that the number one, or are there other factors you see commonly show up as people are trying to figure out scaling their life, not just their business?
So there's a belief set. So it's if there was like a foundation, like chapter 3 of my book is called The 5-Time Assassins. I had to write that chapter to deal with the self-inflicted chaos and emotional shrapnel that every CEO creates in their life that takes up time, right? Because what's the point of telling you to hire somebody to buy back your time if you are the worst creator of inefficient time? So I had to deal with that. So I would say, first off, let's look in the mirror. Okay. And then if we say, okay, like I'm not making any of these, I don't have any of these assassins showing up too strong, then it's, all right, how do I do this? Okay. And the sequencing for me, it's a process. There's no like right or wrong answer. The replacement ladder I created to give people direction, but the real process is the buyback loop, right? So the buyback loop process usually starts with the pain line. You are now at a point where if you grow next month, your calendar creates chaos. So as soon as growth equals calendar chaos, you've hit the pain line. That's what I call it, the pain line. Boom. So that point, you then have to do what I call audit, transfer, fill. Okay. I want this to be language in every entrepreneur. I want people to just walk around their day going audit, transfer, fill, audit, transfer, fill, ATF. Like this is the universal principle. It's like when you say like, Dan, how do you do it? I'm going to tell you how I do it. I do this probably every 4 months right now because I'm just at a growth capacity. Most people can just start and do this for a year. Audit is doing a time and energy audit on their calendar. Right. And the audit is every 15 minutes, you log what you did. The end of the day, you then go back through that list and you highlight in green things that gave you energy, highlight in red things that took your energy. And next to it, put a $1 sign or a $4 sign if it's cheap to pay somebody else to do versus expensive to get somebody else to do. Then you take all of the reds and all of the $1 sign stuff and you put them in a bucket. That's the next person you should hire and deploy all of that. That's audit. Transfer is How do you do that in a way that doesn't take up a ton of time? Because a lot of people, they know what they need to hire. They think. Now, this is the thing, David, just like my buddy thought he knew, do the audit, transfer, and fill. Here's even the thing on the energy. People don't value the energy they bring to their work. Do you know that I get 3 to 4 times more stuff done on a daily basis because I bring consistent, positive, we were just talking about this before we record, energy to my work? Right? You've been around me, man. You've come to my events. You're like, Dan, you always have energy. It's because I choose not to do things that suck my energy. So when you stack things that give you energy, guess what happens? It acts like a flywheel.
Yeah, that's how you play an infinite game, right? You could go on forever.
Game. Yes.
You can go on
I don't
forever.
have a life I'm retiring from. There's literally nothing. My wife once time asked me that like several years ago. What do you think retirement looks at? I looked around. I think we were sitting on a beach somewhere. And I'm like, this is what we're doing. Oh, we were adding the BVIs on a boat. We're literally sitting on the boat, hanging out in the morning, drinking coffee. But then I might get on my phone and share some stuff that I want to share with the world, right? It's just, I really want people to understand that it is possible. They're just doing the things in the wrong order. They're hiring people in the wrong, they're deploying labor dollars in the wrong sequence. So we do the audit. Then transfer is this framework I call the camcorder method. It's probably the most powerful thing. People get it wrong. Like I literally record me doing the work and I have 4 or 5 recordings. And when I hire the person to take over the transfer, I give them the recordings. They create the playbooks. I don't create playbooks. Why would I create playbooks? I'm just going to do the work and talk out loud. Zoom, I can jump on a Zoom meeting, record, share my screen, process my inbox. I can, dude, everything in my world. If people want to go on my social medias and you want to follow me and you want to see all this stuff, I don't do any of that. I do this. This is still Dan. Until I can get an AI bot that can act and converse in same energetic style.
Coming
like
2024.
Yeah. It may happen though soon, but I'm just saying as it is today, this is physically the biological Dan. So I still show up for the things that I love to do that only I can do that make me the most money. That's the other thing is in the book, I talk about the drip matrix, which is delegate, replace, invest, and produce. Okay. And it's a quadrant. The XY axis is lights you up and makes you money. Some people buy back their time to do stuff that sucks, or they buy back their time to do things that are lower value than the thing that they bought, right? I'm an accounting firm and I go in to hire an accountant because I'm busy. No, hire an executive assistant to free up your time to do more accounting because I can pay an executive assistant a lot less than I can pay an accountant. You did it wrong. I just want to check in. Is this landing? Like it's a subtlety, but it's so important.
Yeah, I think the sequence is important. I think the frameworks are important. I think to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, which is around I think you called it the emotional shrapnel that goes on. Because again, you start your own firm, you're in a state of panic. Am I going to pay my mortgage? Am I going to have emotional carnage? X, Y, and Z told me I wasn't going to make it. And so you're grinding 24/7. Then you hit $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever it may be for you. And then you have this fear that you're going to lose it. And in order to get ahead of that fear, you need to maintain that work lifestyle. And that's where the concept of holding on something forever is dreadful for most business owners. And so what are some examples that you've seen folks have to overcome from an emotional shrapnel perspective or belief system in order for them to really start to internalize that this is really possible?
Yes. Step one is that you're worth it. Most people don't feel worthy of paying somebody else to do something. They're like, it sounds funny, but it shows up in different formats. But one of the ways that I solve this for people is I talk to them about the buyback rate, right? There is a dollar amount that if you run the math, and again, it's in the book and you can ask me if you want me to unpack it. But once I know what my buyback rate is, I look at my list of things that I'm doing, and anything I'm doing that is worth less than the buyback rate is mathematically dumb. Like it's just, if your goal is to work on things that's going to move the business forward, why are you spending any time on things that are less than the income you could generate? Like it doesn't like, and so first off, you need to understand that your time is worthy of X. And once you understand that, it's like $10 million companies are not built off $10 tasks. It's physically impossible to work that much. Like you cannot operate a 10 million or even $1 million accounting firm without people. Like maybe you can, I don't know the industry that well, but maybe you can find a handful of really high clients that you do some like obscure tax thing and they're going to pay you a percentage. And maybe you can, I don't know. But as soon as you start hiring people, then there's a sequencing. Okay. So let's just assume you realize, okay, I'm going to start with the lowest value energy stuff. And that's how I'm going to hire, right? See, the beauty of this is like when you said earlier, you build this thing and you keep grinding. If you do it the way I'm talking about, There's no grinding. Like literally, like the people that I coach from the beginning, day zero, there's no grinding 60, 70 hours a week because they don't have to, because the first level is executive assistant, which means they get 35 to 40 hours of their week in day one back because they're getting paid $50 an hour to do logo designs. They're paying $15 or $20 an hour to an executive assistant to take care of all this administrative stuff so that they can do more logo stuff. See what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think it's a belief we have because it's our experience, but it's not true going forward if people want a different approach, right? The other beliefs is that other people won't do it as good as you. Here's my rule. 80% done by somebody else is 100% freaking awesome. And if you think that you're going to hire somebody else and they're going to be able to do it as good as you, you're just delusional. Reduce your expectations, right? But here's what I know. Every hour that somebody else did something for me, even at 80%, is an hour that I got back and I am incredibly grateful for.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a whole team of people that support our house, right? I have a house manager. She manages all our real estate, all of our vehicles, all our insurance, all our she literally is the CEO of my wife and I's lives. And man, I'm grateful for her. I share that because I want to inspire people that there's even another level that most don't even consider. And this is not something that's reserved for Richard Branson or Oprah. This is literally something that most people could get to if they actually understood the value of their time and how their calendar looks. When I coach CEOs and they're like, I don't have time to go to the gym. And then we do a time and energy audit. And I'm like, why are you putting together furniture Saturday morning for 4 hours? Because you bought it to save. How much did you say? They're not even doing the math. So there's a belief system. There's a bunch of beliefs around somebody else won't do it as good as me. You know, what if I hire them, train them and they leave? You know, what if you hire them, don't train them and they stay? But again, if you follow the camcorder method, this is like the unlock for a lot of my clients. When I show them this, is like, I record everything I do. And then when I hire people, I give them the videos to do it. And then the first week or two of their onboarding is literally to watch 60 hours worth of recordings. They write the playbook. Yeah. Then I look at the playbook to see if they understood what I said in the videos. And if they don't work out in a month or two, then I got a training system and a playbook. So the next person is going to be able to ramp up even faster. And it's called a net time, no extra time. It took me 0 to do the fill part though, David. This is like the other part. So audit, transfer, fill is the buyback loop. The beliefs around fill is, I don't think people, when we talk about worthy, some people don't resonate with that initially, but here's what I mean by that. Is when is the last time you invested money into learning a new skill to support your dreams? Most people, I read a book. Cool. $32, $22. You might have been cheap and bought the Kindle version because it was free because you have a Kindle Unlimited version, whatever, invest. So like the fill part for me is always starts with, I buy back my time to do more of the thing that I'm currently getting paid for that I don't have capacity to do. First and foremost, like I want to get my calendar full of just that because economically that's going to produce the amount of new resources for me to then buy back more time. Once that's filled, then it's to buy back time to go invest in acquiring skills, developing your beliefs, and building your character traits. That is the ladder. People are like, what does it take to be successful in life? Those 3 things. It's a ladder. Okay. The left side is skills. Right. And I'm talking strategy, know-how. I don't know how to run Facebook ads. Yeah, that's a skill. Go learn the skill. Right. But I tried it before. It didn't work. That's a belief. You have a poor belief on the world. You didn't make it work. People have made it work. Go find the people who made it work and have them convince you on why it will work for you. And if you can't big that belief, go write a big check to somebody that's going to teach you because you will show up to get your money's worth. Because when people pay, they pay attention. So beliefs. And then character traits is, dude, I've met people that have incredible skills. Okay. These are professors in universities, incredibly talented, really weird beliefs on the life. They're poor. Okay. Really talented skills, bad beliefs, and even worse, no character traits, no confidence, no consistency, no mental toughness, no positive habits. There's these character traits you want to lock in and build habit stack. And to me, that's why we buy back our time, is to do that. And then really quickly though, this is what's cool. And I'm talking like, if you're fast, you could do this in a year. You start a business today and you listen to this and you're like, okay, that's the model. That's the discipline. I'm willing to do the work in a 12-month period. It's very feasible that you'll get to a point where you're literally working 35 hours a week, making incredible income and living a life that is fulfilling, and you're available and you're present and you're finding flow. And if you don't have that, you can fix it really quick. Because if people have a team and they have resources, it's just a decision to reallocate.
Yeah. It's something you mentioned earlier, piggyback to what you just said, is you've done multiple Ironmans, which require
just in the last year,
a lot of training. How do you make
24 hours a week towards the taper? Yeah.
An amazing amount of time. And so how do you make that mathematical decision, if you will?
David, and I run 2 8-figure companies. Like this, people are like, people can't even run one.
How do you know when you're like, so you said 35 hours a week. Like, how do you know what's the right balance for you? Is it 30? Is it 40? Because there's always that activity that can drive more revenue, right? Or there's times where you say, look, I have this window, I can do Ironmans for X this next decade or whatever it may be. So I want to hedge towards that, or I want to learn this skill. And so how do you know when to take some kind of time chips off the table that's not revenue driven, but something
you get it? That's a great question. That's a beautiful question, because here's the math that I have to do now is, okay, I do want to create more so I have more so I can give more. Like, that's my belief in life, right? Do good so you can do great things for other people. But certain next levels for me is going to require an investment in a new skill, right? That's just how it is. People say, I wish I was more successful. My question to you is, who do you need to become to be the person who could be that successful? And there's a gap today, because if you were that person today, you'd already have that success in your life, and you don't. So then you just have to decide, is this now based on what's going on in my life? I have 3 filters, okay? My business fundamentals, my success habits, and my commitment to others, okay? And I use those as a filter of, do I have capacity to then go add something else? And if I can't, then I got to buy back my time. But I can't buy back my time until my buyback rate's at a place where I can pay, right? Like, I'm at the place now where I'm hiring CEOs to run companies. Okay. So there's that, but there's even opportunities to like, so the question is I think you just got to decide in your heart. Cause my problem is, holy moly, I have some friends that are beautiful, but wow, they just gave up on life. They just gave up. They just decided, they became independently wealthy. They sold their companies or whatever. And I know, cause I've been to the end of this, they're very inward focused. Okay? It's all about them. I'm traveling the world. I'm living my life. I'm down in, what's that party area of Mexico?
Oh, I
kind
of know what you're talking about.
The other one,
I can't.
Tulum. They're in Tulum, right?
Tulum. Okay.
Yes.
I have a young family, and we're coming out of COVID, so we're not traveling anywhere.
I haven't been there. I'm trying to be specific, so maybe I can capture one of your audience members who's, oh my God, he's speaking to me. And what happens though is they just don't realize there's more in them. Like, people, there's the difference between happiness and fulfillment, right? Like, I'm after fulfillment. I'm after giving more, right? So dude, you know how it is with kids. There's only a certain amount of time. If you said, I'm going to spend every minute of every day with my kids, quickly, they're going to be like, you got to get away from me. And you're going to be like, I don't like my kids that much. Okay. So there's limits, right? Yeah. So in the book, what I teach is how to be intentional about your week. Okay. It's called the perfect week. We did this work when we worked together, right? So we have the perfect week. We have the preloaded year. The preloaded year is a 12-month version of the perfect week. And that's where you put the stuff, the big rocks, man. So I got like my family vacations. I got the boys trips. I got my work stuff. I got everything in there. Turns out there's still a lot of space, right? You do the perfect week. Most people don't realize there's still a lot of space. Now you might go, I just don't want to be that busy and overscheduled. That's fine. Today, that might be the case. I would argue that you don't have a 10X vision for your life. You don't have a dream that is pulling you forward to become more. Like, when people see me today, they go, where do you find the energy to do what you do? I created the energy. I decided to discover how to do that. Dude, 3 years ago, I could not swim. 3 years ago, I'd never swam in a pool, in a lake, anything. And I went from sprint triathlons to Olympic sprints to half Ironmans to full Ironmans. And this year I'm doing a ultra Spartan, or I'm doing a Spartan and an ultra with 3,000 meters of elevation, which is just absolutely a lot of fun. So I think
people are missing what they can do with their time too.
They don't even understand it. They don't understand that, like, when you start operating from a place of energy and focus and things that light you up, right now, you just don't want to do more of what you're doing because it sucks your energy. I wouldn't want to do any more of that either. But dude, I like talking to my friends. David, you know me, man. I would hang out with you all day and we talk about cool stuff and we talk about life, talk about family and stuff. So is this work?
To piggyback on something you were talking about, which is, and I've certainly adopted this mindset. I feel like, you know, routinely come across people that kind of feel this way too. But I'm curious, is there a way to find happiness or fulfillment without having some level of, we'll call it creativity with your body? Like, whether it's Iron Man or whether it's training, you got to move. Like, I feel like it's impossible to get into the headspace to see potential if you're neglecting the shell you find yourself in
It's
24/7.
the temple. Here's
Yeah.
the way I resolve that personally. Because I don't work out for my physical appearance, even though I'm physically fit. And I know that 9% body fat right now and all that fun stuff. You exhaust the body to control the mind. People don't get it.
Yeah.
Now that I say that, does that click for you?
Oh, 100%.
Now you get, that's
it
why
is-
we do it. We just don't
Yeah.
know we do it for that reason.
I think it's a huge detriment to society that we think of physical fitness as a appearance factor and not a mental health factor.
Zero of the workouts I do is for physical fitness. I do it one part as a inspirational example of possibility for others. I'll be honest with you. Like, I do know that my physical stature impresses other people and gives me the opening to have a conversation. Same reason I drive a bright orange McLaren, right? Like, I get that certain things to other people create proof points or beliefs. So then you can have a more meaningful conversation. But why should people sweat every day, as I recommend, is because you should do it for your mind. So when you say what brings
100%.
happiness and fulfillment, you can literally have happiness and fulfillment in this moment right now by being grateful for everything you have. But most people don't even stop to do that. They don't do gratitude journaling. They don't do anything. And people are like, I had a friend of mine the other day. It was so funny. He calls me up. He goes, hey man, like, I'm worried about you. I go, why is that? I follow you, man. Like, do you ever feel like there's enough? Are you ever, he was like trying to have this like deep, meaningful thing. Here's what I've learned, David. He was having that conversation with himself. He was just using me as a mirror. So isn't that fascinating? People giving you feedback about your life is really their projections on their beliefs. But what was great is he said that to me and I said, here's what I know. I know the difference of who I am. I know the difference between Dan, the ego and the body, and Dan, the spirit and the soul. And I know what true love is. Like, love is what's left when all other emotions are taken away. So if you want to go there, I can talk to you about the why I do things, right? Because like you said, you could be working out and have a physique that is fitness model and have dark energy driving you.
Totally.
And you can have the same physique and have light energy.
That's a great way to put it.
And he wasn't aware. It's just different fuel sources.
Yeah.
When people say, I want to be happy, I go, no, you don't. I know that's the word you use, but let's describe happy. You want to feel fulfilled. You want to feel useful. So even working out, you're like, why is that required? Now I told you, we exhaust the body to control the mind. And then the other thing is, why is fulfillment a byproduct of contribution? It's because it's built into our DNA. Why do you have kids? It's part of your DNA. It's part of the human experience. It's why we're here on earth. I believe, okay, if you want to go there with me, I believe that every human is here to do two things. One, become the best version of themselves they possibly humanly can be. And if you're spiritual, that's the image of God. He had a vision for who you could be, and he created you in his vision. Some of you guys are falling incredibly short of that. If that's on track, the other one is, and share that person with the world as much as you possibly can. If that's your family, if that's your community, if that's your CrossFit gym, if that's your church, it doesn't matter. Those two things are, you want to find fulfillment, start a journey on those.
Love it. Don't know where else we could take this. I think it's a beautiful note to end on. Dan, if somebody wants to learn more about you, grab a copy of the book. What's the best way for them to connect?
It's on all retailer sites, Amazon, if that's your jam. Definitely go to buybackyurtime.com, and I'll tell you why. I put the perfect week templates, the preloaded years templates, a lot of my frameworks that my publisher said shouldn't go in the book, because he was like, yeah, there's a difference between a great book and a university textbook. So I put all the worksheets on buybackyurtime.com/resources that's linked to in the book. But go get those because I really want to support you. Like I even have my executive assistant folder structure that I teach that nobody knows about. Like I have a very specific way of helping you implement the things we just talked about. And then I'm on all social media channels. So choose the one you enjoy the most. Dan Martell, 2 L's of Martell. My favorite, if you're asking me, Instagram stories. That's the behind the scenes where I show my life in real time, all the stuff I just talked about and the nuances of where I'm at and what I'm thinking.
Beautiful. Love it. I really appreciate you coming on the show. If for folks that are listening or watching today's episode, if you couldn't jot down all the takeaways, all the notes, all the resources and links, you can go to jetpackworkflow.com/blog. That's jetpackworkflow.com/blog to grab those resources. If you enjoyed this interview, leave a 5-star review. Helps us get the word out. If you really loved it, you're like, man, oh man, this really resonated with me. Share it with a fellow firm owner, business owner that needed to hear something today. That's the best way to thank Dan. It's the best way to thank myself. Share it with people that needed to hear today's message. Dan, thanks again for coming on.
Absolute honor, David.